Hello and welcome to the Volleycast. I am your host, Joe Trinzi, and on the other line, it's my write-in candidate for president, Jordan Larson, and some other guy.
And some other guy.
How you doing, Jordan?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Dave, how's it going?
It's going well.
Fantastic backgrounds from both of you. It's good that you two are stepping up your Zoom game.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I learned
What's
from
great
the
is that
best.
every 15-year-old has already known how to do backgrounds and all the tricks and features of Zoom for a month already, and us old people are now oh, we can change our background.
Yeah.
Pretty
This
So
much.
is
true. I'll
like
see.
12
Go
years
ahead.
ago when all of our parents thought they were cool because they put ringtones, on their phone for a hot minute. That's basically what we're doing, We're
I
the
remember creating ringtones for my mom.
Jordan, if you had to have a ringtone on your phone, what would it be?
Ooh. I think back in the day it was Ja Rule or something, Usher.
That is way more hardcore than I was expecting. That's
Really? Oh yeah. I had
I would
well,
go with Sir Mix-a-Lot.
oh.
Baby got back.
so mix a
I
lot.
wouldn't
All right.
want when it goes off.
Really dating yourself there, but fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us, Jordan. And the question that everybody is always wondering is what are you doing with yourself now that you can't be in the volleyball gym besides going crazy?
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting. Just trying to find ways to get better. Obviously, that's staying in touch with teammates, kind of just still building off of those relationships off of last summer. And then, yeah, I'm working on a couple projects personally, and yeah, just kind of diving into that and just still trying to stay active. So working out, trying to work out every morning, and yeah, doing those kind of things.
What are the personal projects, or are they top secret for now?
Uh, they're a little bit top secret right
Go.
now. Hopefully in the next couple months they'll be released, and yeah, but yeah, it's some fun stuff that I'm doing, and yeah,
Come on,
sorry
give,
that
give
I
us a
can't.
give us a little bit of insight. Is it
I
website? Is it video? Is it
yeah, no, I'm pretty sure.
P90X? I mean, what is it?
Yeah, no, it's a website that I'm coming up with, and maybe diving into some coaching and consulting and kind of what that looks like. So
Nice.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, I mean, I'm sure everybody will be fired up to hear that. And
yeah,
I mean, one thing that I think is just always interesting is the accountability and ownership that I got to experience from players on the national team. As that was just an eye opener for me, even coming from going from Division I athletics to national team athletics. It just always shocked me how much all of you on the national team, you didn't wait for the coach to solve all the problems. Even at pretty good level Division I, there's still a little bit of that from the athletes, oh, okay, coach, what do we do? National team, you guys are always just okay, coach, just get out of the way. Let us do this and let's do this. It's what do you guys got going on? Just in terms of trying to keep the squad together and keep it all tight and and all that.
yeah. We did a couple social happy hours and things like that. Just trying to stay connected. Obviously, I'm from a personal standpoint, I'm just trying to just reach out and just see how everybody's doing. I mean, obviously, the postponement kind of rock some people differently than others, and are going to be able to transition to that. And I don't know, I'm kind of taking this time as just an opportunity to really work on some things that were kind of underlying issues for us, and so kind of hashing those out and having those conversations now rather than waiting.
Yeah. Are you guys sort of in a holding pattern? Hey, we're hoping that we get to play some volleyball this summer, so it's we're going to be ready to go whenever we need. It's not you're going to be going tomorrow, but you might only have maybe a couple weeks notice or something like that. Is that kind of the mindset you guys are having, or do you have any clarity as to when you might even be back in the practice gym?
Yeah, we have really no idea. At first it was oh yeah, this is only going to be till the end of the month, and then we got to the end of the month, it's oh, this is going to be extended even longer. So I think a lot of us are just kind of working out, trying to get at least when we do hit some sort of idea of schedule, we're coming out of this quarantine, like 70% of what our 100, like where we were, you know, like we're not losing so much where we can still be like the steady place. So then we get back together, we kind of have some base. And so I think that, at least for me, that's kind of where I put my focus is like, all right, we got to use this time efficiently, even though we don't know like the end of it. And so, yeah, but as of right now, we really are in a holding pattern just because we really don't know like what's next. And I think David, like SoCal, right? LA County just got extended till May 15th, right?
Yeah, May 15th. And, you know, what are some mental things that you maybe do when you don't know, or a lot of these things are outside of your control? Is that frustrating for you, or are you able to, you know, subside those anxious feelings, or what do you find yourself doing to make sure that those don't creep in?
Yeah, I mean, I think initially I was like kind of excited for quarantine just because I hadn't been home in so long. So I was like, oh, this is great. Like, this is the first time I really get to be home. But now there's like this lack of like freedom almost. Like I can't go, you know, to the hair salon. I know that was a weak excuse, but I don't know.
Trust me, if anybody can see my hair right now, I'm growing my best Joe Exotic mullet right now. It's actually starting. So
I like it. I like it.
You know, I need a trip to the salon myself.
So I think like once I realized like, oh my gosh, like it kind of feels like a little bit like suffocating at times, but just trying to like stay like what I try to get my mind to do is like, all right, just get up, work out, like still have like a similar structure. And I think having those kind of set boundaries has helped me kind of stay like someone on task. And obviously some days are hard, like easier than others, but I think that's that mental framework of just like still having like some structure today, or like setting up meetings or trying to find ways to stay busy and stay active. I think that's, you know, that helps.
Yeah, I think that's certainly something. Again, kind of one of these things that kind of I discovered like when I was with the national team is just like all this stuff. Everything that goes on in the national team, like 90% of it is the exact same thing that like high school players can do. It's just done like way better and like way more consistently and way more diligently. And you were just kind of talking about like having a routine to establish some normalcy. I feel like that's sort of coaches, players, whoever it is, and I mean just people in general. Like that's just one of the biggest challenges is like, well, I don't have to be anywhere today, but like assigning that as like, oh no, I have my own meeting with myself today at 8:00, or like I'm still going to the gym at 8:00. The gym just happens to be the driveway, or whatever like that. We were recording this webinar with Alfie Reft this morning, and he kind of said the same thing. Like he kind of like got off kilter for like a week or so, and like he's going to a new school, so he's trying to get everything in place. But he's like, okay, I have to make this one area my office. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go to the office and do my work, even if the office is just 4 feet over there, you know?
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's that mental framework has really helped me just stay sane. And but obviously just spending time with people that I enjoy spending time with is also great. And yeah, I think that's
what are some like specific tactics that you guys kind of going on with the team right now? Like, do you, like you said, okay, everybody's kind of doing, okay, we're all going to get on like video chat at 8:00 tonight or whatever like that. Like, you guys getting the house party app, playing some games, or like give us like some specifics. Like if teams want to have like a little like team get together on video, like what can they do?
Yeah, we attempted to do a TikTok video, like the first happy hour we did. And then obviously like also with the national team, we're meeting, like try to meet once a week, and we're having like special guests on there. So we had two girls from the 99 World Cup soccer team and on this week, and it was really cool just to kind of hear and understand like their perspective and like what they went through. And I think that got a lot of our minds thinking like, oh man, like we're not where they were, like how can we now make that like our culture like that, or whatever it is, you know? So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, for example.
Who's the best TikToker on the team?
Oh, I think Maddie Kingdon and I think Kelsey, they've done a couple together. Also Hannah Tapp's pretty good.
All right.
Hannah and Paige like have some good rhythms. So again, and Rachel's doing quite well. I don't even know how to use the app, so it's all right. I'll get there.
You know, I think all three of us could be classified as old souls, so I'm not surprised that
For sure.
none of us. We're all rapidly entering the get off our lawn phase of life. At
I
least
don't
I
know what
am.
you're talking about. I feel like I look like the same as I do in David's picture there, right?
For sure.
I'm not talking visually.
I know, I'm just kidding.
All right. All right. Speaking of physicality, on this day right now, do you or Faluka have a higher vertical leap?
Oh God. Wow. Uh, the fact that I know she does for sure. There's without question.
What?
Come on.
I mean, I've seen you do box hops in the garage lately.
Come
I
on
think
now. All right,
I think it's
listen.
getting there.
Listen. There's
Love it.
still hope, I think. Right?
I like that.
What like what are some, I mean, obviously you don't have to like give anything away here, but like from the FIVB, like are you thinking that there's going to be any FIVB competition this year? Like is there, I mean, it's got to be some amount of prep for it, but
Yeah, I'm on the athletes commission, and they just had a call this week that I would, because it was early in the morning, I wasn't able to be a part of it. But yeah, I mean, I think with anything, I think there's hope that there's going to be something. They haven't come out and said like, hey, there's not going to be anything. Obviously, they postponed BNL till after the Olympics, so obviously that was anticipating that the Olympics were going to be like kind of set in place. So I don't know what that looks like now, and nothing has really been said. But I think from sponsorship deals, I'm assuming like they would want to hold it, so or do something along those lines. But who's to know what's going to happen?
how about Pan Am Cup? I'm assuming that Cristobal still has a full schedule for Pan Am Cup.
Yeah, again, a lot of it's up in the air, but it sounds like there are some restrictions in that, and like, do we have the power to not go or whatever?
Yeah.
So I think we're still kind of waiting on that as well.
I think just Dominican has been crowned champion of Pan Am Cup. Just
It's always a safe bet. The Dominicans already won the 2022 Pan Am Cup. Don't really know that. No. All right, it's good. All right. Curious both of your responses. Before or after June 1st for first national team practice? If you had to guess, like, you know.
I'd say after for sure.
It's going to go after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Now that we got extended till May 15th, now it's kind of like, oof, I don't know, not looking so good.
I'm
I
gonna
think
guess. I'm gonna guess before, actually.
You know what, the topic though, I think, and it's getting touched on in collegiate sports, which obviously I'm involved with much more, is, if it's not safe for spectators to be around these things, if we're deeming it that it's not safe, then why is it safe for the athletes to come back, right? If we're going to say that, all right, spectators can't come in, maybe to the ASC and watch practice, like how are we going to control that? And then all of a sudden it's, well, if it's not safe for spectators, why is it safe for athletes to be around each other? Because they're still coming in contact with other people in their daily lives. They're not being, it's not like you're moving national team practice to Fight Island and, everyone's been tested and now we're only able to stay in this small place.
Well, it's funny that you say that because, okay, Fight Island, okay, that's probably not going to happen. And Southern California seems like to be relatively low total amount of outbreak. I mean, just it's tough to know kind of all the figures, but I wonder, has there been any talk of like the national team might train in a different location if that, because there is a kind of a geographic, like clearly you're not going to be training in New York City anytime soon. But like, like that is what I wonder about. Like, is there like going to be geographic areas that are deemed like quote unquote safer or something like that? Or is it just going to be like, we're waiting until Southern California is clear? What do you, is there anything like that from your end, Jordan?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I just don't know, like even financially, like if you say, well, I could do that, right? Like relocate everybody. I don't know. That would be a lot upfront cost, but maybe like, I mean, yeah, what if it is Colorado Springs? Then they would just, like, I guess they could maybe host us there. I don't know what Colorado, I haven't really been trying to pay attention to the news. You talk about staying sane. Like I really haven't been watching because I just think if I did, I would go more crazy. So.
You know what? I'm in the same vein. I have that there's like that Johns Hopkins tracker. I just click on that each day just to like kind of make sure the number's not like, 7 million or something like that. And I'm just like, okay, all right, man, that's all I'm good for. Cause like, I feel like I did the same thing that everybody did like a month ago. I just like went way too deep down the rabbit hole and like,
Yeah.
okay, now I need to just follow the official advisories and tell me when I can come out.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's cool. So in terms of like your physical preparation, you know, what I don't know, what are some of like the biggest bang for your buck things that you think can be still done at home? Is it like basically just kind of like the big strength lifts, you know, like are you just kind of doing all that kind of stuff? Is there like some cardio where you're trying to have some relation to what the demands of volleyball would be? Like kind of what's your approach, like you said, trying to come back at least 70% of what you could be?
Yeah. Well, we do a lot of heart rate based stuff. So I try to put my heart rate monitor on or use my watch. And we have a Peloton here. So I usually jump on that as like a nice warm up in the morning. So I do like 30 minutes of that. Do it like a 30-minute like hit class, and then I'll like go like right into like my lift. So basically I was doing a lift, and then we have kind of changed it according to what I have at home. And I was lucky that I was able to have some stuff at home to be able to do very similar to what I was doing. And so it's a lot like, bigger lifts. So like overhead squats kind of thing, like goblet squats, things like that, but also doing, you know, some band work and working on some flexibility stuff and things like that. So I've been able to do like pretty much that, but also now I'm kind of alternating like body weight circuits. So I'm doing like a lift body weight circuit, like off day kind of where I'm doing maybe just a casual walk. But I think there's opportunities at home to do it. I think there's a lot of HIIT classes online that you can do. And if you have a bike, I think it's important to just even get out and ride your bike. So
What's the heart rate training look like? What's like a specific?
so we do like, intervals. So we do like, sometimes it's like 10 sets of, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, or it's like up to a certain percentage of heart rate. So it's typically like I go to like 83% of my heart rate, and you can show that on the Polar app, and then like down to 75%, then up to 83, down to 75, and you do that like 10 times. But because I'm on the Peloton, I'm on for a longer time. And so usually like my heart rate's just like doing like intervals or like staying at a high level. So I don't know, I'm feeling pretty good. And yeah.
Is that your preferred cardio?
Yeah. I mean,
Low impact.
Yeah, man, I can't be run outside. My knees would be crushed.
Yeah.
So,
Why do you tend to give the eye roll when I tell you that cardio is good if you just lift faster? Why does that not necessarily come across?
No, I was like, I could definitely, I like to take my time when I lift, just because I like to like push some weight, but then I also like lose that cardio effect a little bit. So but I think that's why I like the body weight circuits. Like, okay, there's 9 exercises, do them as fast as you can, recover for a minute, and then I think that kind of like mixes in there nicely. So
yeah, and like you're used to that probably more than a lot of people, because like I know the USA schedule, like we're in some random gym, in some random country, and like Jimmy's like scouting out the hotel like weight room. He's like, all right, we got 1 bench, half a box, and like 3 bands, and then like Jimmy like works up some sort of circuit. So like, that's probably right in your wheelhouse anyway.
Yeah, and he's been awesome. Like we do like twice a week we'll get on a Zoom call with him. And so he'll basically like watch us like work out. And so if we need to make any like adjustments, like he's there to like ask questions. And it's just good that's another way we're trying to stay connected, is like working out together. It's just a good way to see faces. Obviously we only get to see so many faces for all these days. So it's nice to see some different faces.
So you guys like put the video call up, and then you all hit your circuit or hit your cardio?
Yeah, well, I usually do the cardio before, so he doesn't really see me on the bike. But then once I get down to like the garage and lifts, like I just set the computer up, and then you like set a time, and then people will pop in like as the hours go on. So he sits on Zoom calls from like 8 a.m. to noon. So
nice.
Yeah.
And mainly what you're doing is physical stuff, or you're breaking down a video, or you watch anything like that, or is it just all focusing on what you're doing?
Yeah. Right now I'm just kind of focusing on what I'm doing. I was like doing some video stuff like right when we had first stopped. So I was like, okay, if this is only going to be a few weeks, like I can sit here and watch practices that I was doing. but now that it's extended a little bit, like I haven't really done as much video stuff, but
Makes
it's a good
sense.
reminder. I need to do that.
I got you.
What are you sort of like on the lookout for? Because you're one of the most experienced players on the team. Like you have played at a high.
Joe's calling you old right there. You
I
just
know.
said
I was
you're
like,
the
what are
oldest
you
player.
trying to do here?
Veteran. No.
Okay.
No, but you have had like, so you're kind of like saying that in this sort of like matter of fact voice, like, okay, I know what I need to do. And like, all right, I'm not too worried about like diving like into the video right now. Cause I know like where my body needs to be at. And like, okay, we've played against China like 100 times. Like I know this amount of time out from the match. That's when I need to start. Like, you know, like you kind of, not that you have everything like perfectly figured out, but like you have like your rhythm, like you know the rhythm to like the national team. But like you got teammates that don't know it yet. They're still trying to figure it out. Like are they like, oh, like I need to be in the gym right now because I need to get every rep and like I'm going crazy. Like what are you kind of like monitoring to try to keep the team kind of on track?
Yeah, for sure. I think there are some people like that, and I get it, right? Like I also too, I'm like, oh man, I'm like reps and things like that. You feel just a little bit out of rhythm, but I don't know. Unfortunately, right now, like a lot of it is just out of our control, and so just keeping like communicating that, like, hey, listen, like we all wish we were in the gym and like doing these things, but at the end of the day, like all we can do is control what we're doing at home. And so I know some girls are, you know, getting touches in at home, you know, whether it's up against the wall or doing things like that. So ultimately, like right now, that's really all we can do, or watch
Yeah.
video or do something like that. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of like surrendered to it because it's like, well, if I sit here and spend time, you know, worrying about like not touching the ball, then it's just going to make matters worse. So.
What is the situation like? You have a lot of professional teammates that are like overseas and stuff like that right now. Like, are they all in a similar boat? Is there any like, are there any national teams that are practicing right now? Do you think like around the whole
Uh,
world?
I think China is, because I
Yeah,
think they were already kind of in their like training facility like before this all like went down. So I think they like automatically just went on lockdown like at their facility. So I think they're probably one, if the only national team that I know of that is probably training. But most, yeah, all the girls from that were playing overseas are now home except Kim, I think. And just because she was waiting out about, excuse me, the Italian league and what was going on with that. So yeah, otherwise everybody's kind of in the same boat, which again, it's like we're all in this situation, right? Like everybody's going to be starting at like basically like zero like volleyball touches, right? So
yeah,
what are we worried about, you know?
yeah. And I mean, the reality is the Olympics is a really long ways away now. Like it's a whole, yeah, that's a long time away from now. There's no chance that the Olympics gets bumped back up, right? Like that's, I mean, as far as you know, right? Like there's no you know,
Yeah, I haven't
I
heard
guess who
anything.
knows?
I would assume not. That would be the chances. If anything, it would be like the reverse. Like if it, for whatever reason,
Push
however
back
long this
further.
would go, yeah, push back further. But
Joe,
yeah,
you should know that the Japanese are not ones for, you know, just winging it. You know, there's
No,
the
that's
countdown clock is
fantastic.
already going.
That's an absolutely fantastic point. What about like FIVB calendar and like all, you know, I love to just like speculate and brainstorm about stuff. So like I feel like every question I'm going to ask you, or you're just going to be like, well, I don't know. I'm just going to like work out and then see when I'm ready. But like, what do you think the odds of like the pro season being like in the ballpark of the normal pro season versus like the FIVB saying, well, we're just going to hold Nations League from January to February, and then like the pro season's going to get cut back. Like, do you think that there's any? Because that happens a little more in soccer, right? From my understanding. But like, do you think there's a shot of that with volleyball?
that's a good question. I think there was some concern of that too. It's like because some clubs were saying, like, hey, okay, we're gonna postpone the ending of the season, right, until June. And then they were gonna have a Final Four in June. It's like, wait a minute, like, isn't like the calendar, like FMVB calendar, typically like May 15th to September 15th, right? So like, are they gonna uphold those calendar dates like now? You know, I would hope so, right? Because
Yeah,
it's put in place for like respect on either ends, you know? And so, but sometimes they don't even respect that. So it's kind of, I know as athletes, like we've been fighting for like a hard respect of those dates, and then also like some like rest period, because it's like we, you know, VNL, like the end of club season and VNL starting like this year would have been 3 days. It's crazy. And from an athlete's perspective, like it's frustrating on our end, because we don't have time to recover. And the quality of volleyball and injuries are going down and quality of volleyball is going down. So it's like, how can we find this balance that is good for everybody? And I know everybody has like some incentive on each end, but at the end of the day, it should be the athletes put first. So, and I think, we're grateful for all the opportunities too, right? So, but I think it's, yeah.
The funny thing is, what you're saying right there, like there's probably hundreds of 16-year-olds in the country right now who can relate to the exact same thing. So I think you just think there's this perception. I know when I go to like high schools and do camps or clubs or something like that, they're like, oh, like everything must be great, and like the professional or whatever like that. And it's like, yeah, you know how like you finish your high school playoffs and then you have to go to your club tryout like the next day, and then like this now, like that's kind of like it doesn't really end. And it's like you said, it's a tough thing. Like everybody wants to mine the athletes for all they're worth while they have them. And do you think, I don't know, do you see any like do you see volleyball athletes in general seeing this time off and being like, we need to negotiate? Like it's hard because there's no union or anything like that for professional volleyball players, but do you see like any possibility that the athletes are going to say like, hey, it actually would be really good if we had mid-April to mid-May off every year, like our, something like that? Like, is there any talk of that amongst like various pros or anything like that?
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of talk, and again, I think a lot of us have been fighting for that, and I think that's been our stance, and we're trying to communicate that. I think it's tough when these demands are being put on you, and it's like, well, now, like for example, like FOB put on, they were going to talk about limiting the roster for like BNL finals, and it's like, or like the BNL roster period, like to 20, I don't know there was talks of that, right? And so it's like, okay, you limit us then, but then we really don't have any time off, and now you're limiting the numbers, so now we really have to travel all these weeks, and I don't know, it's just very constricting. And so when those limits come on us, then it's like, well, what power do we really have, And so, but there are a lot of talks, and I think a lot of unhappy athletes, but I think that's why a lot of us in this time, like while it stinks, we're getting the most time that we've ever had. So in a sense, the blessing for us.
Jordan, do you think athletes come back playing the best volleyball they've ever played because they're thankful to be back in the gym and just their bodies are refreshed? Or do you think it's like they start moaning and groaning that they're out of, condition, or they haven't touched the ball and therefore it takes them longer to get back in shape?
Yeah, I think it's just all depending on like the mindset of that, like the person that's in, like, like how are they approaching this time now? Are they using it to their advantage, like staying physically in a good spot? Then I think maybe the moaning and groaning is only like, oh man, like this feels weird, like I need to get back into it. But I don't know, I would hope people are using this time as a good way to stay in shape and do those kind of things, and coming back, and so then they can't look at us and be like, well, we gave you time off and now look what happened. Yeah. So I don't know, I hope that people really take advantage of this time and have a good mindset coming out of it. And I hope we are playing good volleyball out of it. So then it is a good reflection of, hey, this is what we actually need,
Yeah.
Yeah. There's in American volleyball, I think we could stand to drastically shorten competitive seasons on both ends. And I think that the same case is on the FIVB. I don't feel like you need to comment on this if it puts you in an awkward position, but in my opinion, it's the FIVB schedule that should shorten up, because the pro season is what allows athletes to be pros. And I think if you look at something like a sport like soccer, which has more professional money, the soccer international season is significantly shorter than the volleyball one. And the same thing with basketball. Basketball manages to have great Olympics and all of that sort of stuff with like pretty minimal international competition, although the teams that are more borderline for qualifying for their national team is under more pressure than a team like USA, for example. But to me, it should be FIVB that should give, but it also seems like it's the FIVB that's the least interested in giving. So it's kind of tough.
Yeah. Again, I see it from both sides. Like, obviously, like, I think for us, like, spending time with the national team is like precious time, right? Like, I enjoy
If you
representing my
enjoy the
country.
national team season more, it's, I mean, no doubt about that.
Exactly. So I think, but then I think it's like the reverse for some other like nationalities, right? Like, they would prefer like spending time more in the club season. And I've had great club experiences too. So I get it, so it's like, I see both sides. So I understand like the frustrations on both ends, because I feel like club teams feel like they're paying us for our time and like a significant money, amount of money for our time. And so they want us for a majority of the time. And I get that. And yeah, it's tough to say. I don't know. I know that's not the answer you're looking for or the controversy you're looking for.
No, I'm not
Well, I
looking
mean,
for any controversy. Dave, say what you want to say. Go ahead, Dave.
no, I mean, USA Volleyball too is probably one of the better governing bodies in terms of how well they treat their athletes, right? I mean,
Yes.
worldwide, most of these national teams are not paying their athletes to play, where USA Volleyball treats you guys extremely well. So you would have to think that a lot of these national team programs, the athletes, specifically in Europe, where they go to the national team, they're not making any money, right? So the club, like Joe said, club volleyball is what enables most athletes around the world to maintain their living. So the clubs have a lot of clout and a lot of say, but the FIVB also has sponsors that they have to answer to in order to keep money coming in and prize money and revenue and all that. So.
Yeah, part of the issue is there's no one professional league that's managed to be as dominant as, for example, the NBA is in basketball, where basketball players, their first allegiance is to the NBA because that's all they need, whereas volleyball, there's a little bit of playing the pro leagues against each other. Jordan, I actually think that your answer was fantastic. I wasn't looking for any controversy, just sharing a little thought. Have you ever read or heard of the book Extreme Ownership?
Yes.
When I read that book,
it's sitting right next to her.
Well, that's not shocking because, like, to me, you're one of the embodiments of that mindset. And just like as you're answering all these questions, it's just hilarious to me because you're like, okay, well, if this happens, like, this is how I'll find my way to be useful. And like, if this happens, this is how I'll find my way to be useful. And then like, well, this is what I'll do. And like, this is what I'll do to like make that happen. And like, I see a lot of high school players or like I work with like A to Z of volleyball. Like I go from being this year in like the Team Canada national team gym to like working with 12 and unders like next week. And I share that with these people. Like I use you as an example. Like I hope this doesn't sound like too weird, but I'm like, okay, this is Jordan Larson, and she's made more money than almost any other American female volleyball player. And the reason is because she can play on any team with anybody. And like, just as I'm like listening to you talk about this, you're like, well, if the FIB schedule goes long, like this is how I'll handle it. Like, that's just like your reflex. And like, I think it was a perfect answer because like to any coach or any player, like listening to this, it's like, okay, if you want to make millions of dollars in your professional career, like that's the mindset that you should have. Oh, what's the problem? Okay, this is what I need to do. Okay, I'll go do it. Like that's fantastic. We're coming up on time, so I think that's a great way to end it. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I think unfortunately, like this life, like you have to, like not settle for anything, right? And so I think that mentality of like, well, if this is what this like the outcome is going to be, then I don't like it, then I'm going to have to find other ways to like work around that or just like, do with it, like deal with it kind of thing. And so, yeah, I've just been able to like find a way to make things happen. So I appreciate that. Thanks, Joe.
Two-person serve receive, hitting moon balls in Russia. Yeah, I can do that. Lightning fast offense in USA. Yeah, I can do that. Go to Turkey. Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so we got to make it happen no matter where you are. It's fantastic.
Yeah, just being able to adjust and and just I think just being a learner, right? I think just being open to learning and open to change. And I mean, like you guys, right? Like it's with coaching, like I think there's a lot of ways to do a lot of things, and I've learned a lot of those, parameters, and obviously I've found what has worked for me, like to a certain extent. But I think if I was just like, no, this is the only way, then it just limits me to all these things and opportunities that are available around me.
I think what I heard you just say is you and I are pretty similar. So I'm going to wrap the podcast up with that. And you heard it here, folks. Jordan Larson and me, both same level learner and basically operating the same level of life. I'll take that. But seriously, thanks for coming on, Jordan. And thanks, Dave, you're all right too.
Thank you.
And I don't know, maybe we'll have to do this when we get closer to June 1. We'll see if we'll see if the before or after. We'll see what we're looking like there.
I like it. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Good to see you, Joe.
Awesome. Stay safe, Jordan. Stay safe, Dave. Stay healthy.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys.
All right.